How do you properly estimate the cost to rehab a house when you're not right there looking at the house? There are a number of ways to do it, but I prefer a simple method that uses a formula based on the square footage. Now, first of all, when you're talking to a seller, whether you're talking to them in person, you're talking to them on the phone, or they're filling out a form of yours online, they're gonna be not truthful. Sellers lie, and that's my number one adage. All sellers lie all the time. Whether they do it intentionally or unintentionally, for some reason, people seem to believe it's okay to lie to somebody else like that in that particular environment. And so the information you get out of the seller is not correct, or is intentionally designed to give you kind of the false direction to head. So if you were to ask a seller, about how much work would it take to get your house up to retail ready? And they'll come up with ridiculous numbers. We had somebody last week say it was going to take $90. This is for a full rehab. It was more like a $75,000 or $80,000 rehab, and they thought it was $90 to $100. So, they're coming up with this crazy crap, and they know better. But you have to ignore whatever they tell you, and you have to do your own research. And here's what you do. You can start by asking them some questions like, have the bathrooms and the kitchen been redone in the last 5 years? If they've not been redone in the last 5 years, you're going to have to budget that into your equation. Have the carpets and walls been replaced and painted within the last 6 months? And if the answer is no, then you're going to have to do both of those things. And I can just about guarantee you that almost everybody you talk to, has not remodeled their bathrooms and kitchen in the last 5 years, and nobody has done new paint and carpet in the last 6 months. Almost nobody. So when you get to those levels, then you can start putting it in terms of square footage. The way this thing works is if you're going to do just paint and carpet in a house, and use those concepts. So in other words, let's say, I remodeled the kitchen 2 years ago and the bathrooms 3 years ago. So it's within 5 years. All you got to do is some surface work. You don't have to remodel those in particular. But like I said, most people, it's going to have been 15 years since they've done anything or longer. But for $10 a square foot, you can paint and carpet generally a house. You can put some flooring in, but you got to figure about $10 a square foot. So if they have a 2,000 square foot house, you can figure that it's going to run you about $20,000. 2,000 times 10, $20,000. If you got to do paint and carpet and you got to remodel kitchen and bathrooms, it's going to be about $20 a square foot. So on that 2,000 square foot house, it's going to cost you about $40,000 to do those 4 items. If you need to do some general repair and maintenance to plumbing, electrical, and anything like an HVAC system, you can figure 30 plus the other 4 items we talked about, the basic 4, remodeling the kitchen and bathrooms, recarpeting, repainting the house. It's going to cost you $30 a square foot to do that. So, and that's if there's no major system errors, like the HVAC is out completely, or there's a short in the wall someplace on the electrical that could cause a fire. That's going to be more, but just to do a general maintenance, upkeep, maybe replace a heat pump, things like that, $30 a square foot. So for a 2,000 square foot house, you're looking at $60,000. Then if you got to take a house and take it all the way back down to the studs and basically rebuild it, you're looking at $40 a square foot. So $80,000 to get to that level and to rebuild it. Now, when you get into areas that have a bigger population, let's say 500,000 and above, you can generally take 50% of those numbers and add it to get to the right number, because things are more expensive in cities than they are in the rural areas in this country. So, instead of 10, 20, 30, 40, you'd be doing 15, 30, 45, and $60 a square foot. If your house is under 1,000 square feet, the house you're looking at is under 1,000 square feet, use 1,000 as your minimum. If your house needs roof work, that's not included. You've got to add the cost of the roof. Generally, you can figure for about $7 to $8 per square foot for a roof. So a 2,000 square foot house is going to cost you $14,000 to $16,000 to re-roof, depending on the type of roof. If you've got Spanish tiles and things like that, of course, it's going to cost you a lot more. If you need to have landscape put in, generally you can figure about $5,000 average. This is most size houses, a standard first-time home buyer, first-time move-up home buyer house. So $5,000 for that. If you got a pool, I don't care what's wrong with the pool. No matter what it is, it's going to be about $5,000 to fix. Some pools can cost even more than that, but the minute you start getting into a filter or pump system in a pool or replastering or something like that, you're talking $5K. So add that to these numbers we talked about. If there's a pest problem, termites, for example, you're going to have to add that on top of these other numbers. And this is one of the big things, if you've got a house that you're looking at buying where this homeowner or the previous one added square footage without benefit of permit. In other words, they just did this ad hoc thing and they're like, I'm going to turn the garage into a bedroom, a third, fourth bedroom, something like that. And they just did it themselves. First of all, the sellers will always tell you, oh yeah, it was done with permits, whatever. Well, how come the square footage that the county shows is 1,600 and you're telling me 2,000? I don't know. It's always somebody else's fault. It's never their fault. But you can just about be assured that they have done something without benefit of permit, and you better add at least $5,000 to undo what they did, because although you could buy it with the difference between what it actually shows on the county assessor's office and what actually is, a lot of times if your buyer is an FHA buyer, for example, they're going to be really picky on these kinds of things. And if there's a discrepancy, they may not allow them to buy it, or they will downgrade it to just the 1,600 square foot, not the 2,000. So you got to be careful for that. You got to put at least another $5,000 to undo this. That will also help you in negotiating these kinds of things too with these people. Listen, if there's this illegal ad in terms of a extra bedroom or conversion of a garage, or sometimes people just add things onto the house, they just bolt on another room. Those things are all illegal unless they were done with permit. And if they were done with permit, they had to get, in most jurisdictions, an occupancy permit when it was done. In other words, a sign off on the final permit, and then that gets immediately recorded at the assessor's office, the tax assessor, because most states will charge tax based on the square footage of the house, and it's in their best interest, the county, to make sure they record that information correctly. So don't believe these stories. Remember, number one rule, all sellers lie all the time, and use just a quick formula based on that kind of information. That's even if you don't see it. That's if you just quiz these people. Listen, did you paint carpet in the last 6 months? No. Did you rehab or remodel the kitchen and bathrooms in the last 5 years? No. Okay, now you're starting at $20 in case unless you're in a bigger area, a million people, 500,000 or above people, and you're going to be, instead of 10 and 20, you're going to be 15 and 30 a square foot. So do the math. You can get a rough idea. Then you can get somebody to professionally go in and check everything out to make sure you're not missing it. That'll give you a good, back of the envelope, thumbnail guess as to what it's going to take, and you can base your buying formula on that. Okay, thank you for watching. If you get a minute, I would love to hear your comments about what you think of these videos. Feel free also to put in any topics down here in the comment section, things that you'd like to hear me discuss. Any questions you want, go ahead and put in here. We'll make sure we get a video on it when we get time. And as always, please like and subscribe. Hit that ring the bell button as well to get notified every time there is a new video. Thanks a lot, everybody.